The rain hit Dae-jung's face like tiny bullets. He stood at the edge of the cliff, watching the crimson river below turn into a wild beast. The water was red from the minerals in the soil, and it moved fast and angry. This was his third month on planet Vel 7, and he still wasn't used to how quickly the weather could change. He should have been inside the research station. The storm warnings had been clear. But Dae-jung loved watching the alien world during storms. There was something beautiful about the way the purple lightning lit up the red water. It reminded him why he had traveled so far from Earth to study alien life. Then he saw it. At first, Dae-jung thought it was just a log caught in the current. But logs don't move like that. Logs don't roar. The sound that came from the creature made his bones shake. It was loud and desperate, cutting through even the noise of the storm. Dae-jung pulled out his field binoculars with shaking hands. Through the rain and mist, he could see the creature clearly now. It was huge, maybe 3 meters long, with a body like a leopard but covered in scales that shimmered even in the gray stormlight. It had 6 legs instead of 4, and each one ended in massive claws that dug into the rocks as the water tried to pull it away. The creature was fighting the current, but not the way a drowning animal should. Most animals would swim toward the shore, toward safety. This one kept diving under the water, disappearing for long seconds before bursting back up, gasping for air. Each time it surfaced, it roared again. That same desperate sound. Dae-jung's training kicked in. He had spent 5 years studying animal behavior back on Earth, and another 3 learning about alien life forms. He knew the sounds animals made. He knew the difference between fear for oneself and fear for others. This creature wasn't trying to save itself. It was trying to save something else. He grabbed his communicator. "Base, this is Dae-jung. I have a situation at observation point 7. The voice of Sang-woo, his supervisor, crackled through. "Dae-jung, what are you doing out there? Get inside now. This storm is getting worse. There's a creature in the river. A big one. I think it's in trouble." There was a pause. "Then let nature take its course. We don't interfere. You know that. Get back to base." Dae-jung watched the creature dive again. This time, it stayed under longer. When it came back up, it looked weaker. The current was winning. "I think there's something in the water. Something it's trying to protect. Not our problem. Return to base. That's an order." Dae-jung turned off his communicator. He would probably get in trouble for this, but he couldn't just watch. His mother had always told him that he cared too much, that his soft heart would get him in trouble one day. Maybe she was right, but he couldn't change who he was. He ran back to his equipment locker and grabbed everything he might need. A climbing harness, rope, the emergency flotation device they kept for water rescues. His hands moved quickly, checking each piece of gear. His heart was pounding, but his mind was clear. This was dangerous. This was probably stupid, but it was right. The climb down the cliff face was terrifying. The rain made the rocks slippery, and the wind tried to pull him off the wall. Below him, the red water churned and roared. The creature was still there, still fighting. But it was clearly exhausted now. Its roars were weaker. Dae-jung's boots hit the narrow strip of rocks at the water's edge. Up close, the creature was even more impressive and terrifying. Those claws could cut him in half. Those teeth, bared in distress, could crush his bones like twigs. The logical part of his brain screamed at him to climb back up, to run, to save himself. But then the creature turned its head and looked at him. Its eyes were unlike anything Dae-jung had seen. They glowed with a soft blue light, and in them he saw something he recognized. Intelligence, awareness, and desperate, aching hope. "Easy," Dae-jung said softly, even though he knew the creature couldn't understand him. "I'm here to help." He pulled out the flotation harness. It was designed for humans, but it might work. The creature watched him with those glowing eyes as he approached. When he got within a few meters, it suddenly lunged toward him. Daejung's body wanted to run, but he forced himself to stand still. The creature stopped just short of him. It wasn't attacking, it was begging. With careful movements, Daejung expanded the harness to its largest setting and tossed it toward the creature. At first, it didn't understand. It batted at the floating device with one massive paw. Then Daejung mimed, putting his arms through straps, and something amazing happened. The creature understood. It pushed its front legs through the loops. Working together, they managed to secure the harness. The flotation kept the creature from being pulled under, but it still wouldn't leave. It kept gesturing with its paw toward a spot in the water. Daejung followed the gesture and saw it. A dark opening in the cliff face, right at the waterline. A cave entrance. Now almost completely submerged. The creature dove again, fighting toward that cave. Daejung could see it trying to squeeze into the opening, but it was too big. Its shoulders wouldn't fit through. It tried again and again, scraping its scales bloody against the rocks, until finally it gave up and surfaced, making a sound that could only be described as a sob. Daejung understood now. Something was in that cave. Something small enough to fit through that opening. Something this massive creature loved enough to die, trying to save. He looked at the dark water, at the cave entrance that looked barely wide enough for a human. He thought about the risks. The water could push him into the rocks. He could get trapped inside. He could drown. Then he looked at the creature's eyes again, at the desperate plea in them, and he made his decision. Daejung pulled his emergency rebreather from his belt. It would give him maybe 10 minutes of air. Maybe. He secured it over his face, checked the seal, and looked at the creature one more time. "I'll try," he said. "I'll try to save whoever's in there." The creature made a soft sound, almost like a purr. Its glowing eyes seemed to understand. Daejung took 3 deep breaths through the rebreather, then dove into the red water. The current immediately tried to smash him against the rocks. He fought it, swimming hard toward the dark cave entrance. Behind him, the creature made an encouraging sound, a subsonic vibration that seemed to guide him through the churning water. The cave entrance was just ahead. Daejung squeezed through, scraping his shoulders on the rough stone. Inside, the current was less violent, but the darkness was complete. He pulled out his waterproof light and turned it on. What he saw made his blood run cold. The cave was flooding fast. In minutes, maybe seconds, there would be no air left. And huddled on a small rock shelf, barely above the rising water, was a small figure. It was a child. An alien child, clearly the same species as the creature outside, but smaller, more delicate, with smooth skin instead of scales. She wore torn clothing and clutched something to her chest. Her eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. Daejung didn't hesitate. He swam to the shelf and wrapped the child in his thermal jacket. She was so light, so fragile. He secured her against his chest with the rope from his belt, making sure her face was above water. The water was rising faster now. The air pocket was almost gone. Daejung took one last look around the cave and saw the remains of a makeshift home. Blankets, a few tools. Someone had been living here. There was no more time. Daejung dove back toward the entrance with the child held tight against him. The swim back was harder. The child's weight threw off his balance, and his air was running low. His lungs began to burn. Just when he thought he couldn't make it, he felt something. The creature's vibrations in the water, guiding him, showing him the way. He followed that feeling and burst through the cave entrance into the churning river. The creature was there immediately, using its massive body to shield them from the worst of the current. Together, they made it to the rocks. Daejung laid the child down gently and began checking her vital signs. Her pulse was weak but steady. He rubbed her chest, trying to warm her, clearing water from her mouth. The child gasped and coughed. Her eyes fluttered open. The same glowing blue as the creature's. She looked at Dae-jung with confusion and fear, then passed him to the creature. "Mama?" she whispered, in a voice that somehow Dae-jung understood, even though it wasn't a human language. The massive creature, the mother, made a sound of pure relief. She lowered her huge head next to her child, gentle, despite her size. Then both of them did something that made Dae-jung's eyes widen. They bowed to him, a clear, deliberate gesture of gratitude and respect. Dae-jung sat back on the rocks, exhausted and shaking, watching the mother and child reunion. He had come to this planet to study alien life. He never expected to save it. He never expected to see such clear emotion, such obvious intelligence, in a species humanity had never encountered before. The storm was still raging, but somehow it didn't seem as frightening anymore. Dae-jung looked at the mother and child, then up at the research station on the cliff above. He had a lot of explaining to do. But for now, he just sat there in the rain, watching a mother hold her child, and feeling glad that he had listened to his soft heart one more time. Getting back to the research station was not easy. The mother creature, Dae-jung, still didn't know what to call her species, refused to leave her child's side. The child was weak and cold, shivering in Dae-jung's jacket. She needed medical attention, and the storm was getting worse. Dae-jung tried to explain this through gestures. He pointed up at the station, then at the child, then made a gesture for warmth and safety. The mother watched him with those intelligent, glowing eyes. After a long moment, she made a decision. She carefully picked up her child with her mouth, gripping the jacket gently between her teeth, and began to climb. Dae-jung stared in amazement. The cliff face was nearly vertical, slick with rain, but the mother creature climbed it like it was nothing. Her 6 legs found holds that Dae-jung's eyes couldn't even see. The climb back up took Dae-jung much longer. His arms shook with exhaustion, and several times he almost fell. But finally, he pulled himself over the edge and collapsed on the grass, gasping for breath. The mother creature stood nearby, still holding her child, watching him with what might have been concern. "Come on," Dae-jung said, struggling to his feet. "We need to get inside." He led them toward the research station's main building. Through the windows, he could see Sang-woo and the others watching. Their faces showed shock and fear. By the time Dae-jung reached the door, Sang-woo had locked it. "Are you crazy?" Sang-woo's voice came through the intercom. "You can't bring that thing in here. It's a predator. Look at those teeth. Those claws. It could kill us all." "She just saved her child from drowning," Dae-jung said, too tired to yell. "She's not going to hurt anyone. The child needs help. Please." Sang-woo, "No. Absolutely not. I'm calling this in to command. You've violated every protocol we have." Dae-jung felt anger rise in his chest. He was about to argue when he heard a sound behind him. The mother creature had put her child down, gently on the ground. The little one was barely conscious, her breathing shallow and fast. The mother looked at Dae-jung, then at the door, then back at her child. The message was clear. She didn't care about herself, only about her baby. "Fine," Dae-jung said. He pulled out his medical kit and knelt beside the child. "Then, I'll help her out here." He worked quickly, checking the child's temperature and heart rate as best he could. Her body was similar enough to human that he could make some guesses. She was hypothermic and possibly in shock. He wrapped her in thermal blankets from his kit and set up a small heater, creating a shelter with an emergency tent. As he worked, the mother creature watched closely. When Dae-jung pulled out an injection pen, she growled low in her throat. He stopped immediately. "It's medicine," he said softly. "It will help with the shock. See?" He mimed, injecting himself first. The mother considered, then gave a small nod. The child's condition slowly improved. Her breathing became steadier, her color better. After an hour, she opened her eyes and spoke to her mother in that strange language that Dae-jung couldn't understand but somehow felt the meaning of. The relief on the mother's face was unmistakable. Inside the station, Dae-jung could see the others arguing. Finally, the door opened, and Ji-won came out. She was the team's linguist, a small woman with sharp eyes and a curious mind. She had always been kind to Dae-jung, one of the few who didn't think he was too soft for space exploration. "Sang-woo is furious with you," she said, kneeling beside him. "But I had to see this for myself. Are they really intelligent? They're not just animals? Look at them," Dae-jung said. "Really look." Ji-won studied the mother and child. The mother was grooming her child gently, using her tongue to clean the cuts and scratches. The child leaned against her mother, and between them passed soft sounds that were clearly communication. The mother would make a low rumble, and the child would respond with a higher chirp. They were talking. "My God," Ji-won whispered. The child was holding something clutched against her chest, even while her mother cleaned her. Dae-jung hadn't noticed it before in the chaos. It was a small device, rectangular, and made of dark metal, covered in symbols that glowed faintly blue. "What is that?" Ji-won asked, pointing. The child noticed her gesture. She looked at the device, then at Dae-jung, then at her mother. The mother made a soft sound. After a moment's hesitation, the child held out the device to Dae-jung. "I think she's giving it to you," Ji-won said, amazed. "That must be very important to her. She held on to it even when she was drowning." Dae-jung took the device carefully. It was warm to the touch and surprisingly light. As soon as his fingers made contact, the symbols began to glow brighter. The device made a soft humming sound, and suddenly a hologram appeared above it, floating in the air. The hologram showed symbols and images that shifted and changed. Ji-won gasped and immediately pulled out her tablet, recording everything. "This is incredible. It's some kind of data storage device. And look, those symbols there. I've seen something like them before, in the old ruins we found in the southern continent." The device seemed to be trying to communicate. The symbols began to arrange themselves into patterns. Some looked almost like human letters. Others, like mathematical equations. The device was translating itself, trying to find a common language. Over the next hour, Ji-won worked with the device, while Dae-jung continued caring for the child. The mother creature watched it all, alert but calm. She seemed to understand that they were trying to help, trying to understand. Finally, Ji-won let out a shout of triumph. "I've got it! The device has a translation matrix. It's been scanning our speech and building a database. We can communicate now." She activated the translation program. The device hummed, and when the mother creature made a sound, words appeared in the air. "Thank you for saving my daughter. When Sav. Since to today." Dae-jung felt chills run down his spine. "You can understand me now?" he asked. More words appeared. "Yes. Understanding grows with each word. This device was built by my people for first contact situations. I never thought I would need it. We have been alone here for so long." "What are you called?" Ji-won asked, her voice shaking with excitement. "I am Talvira. My daughter is Hayrin. We are Velkari. Once, we were many. Now, we are few. Where are you from? Where are the rest of your people?" Talvira made a long, sad sound. The translation took a moment. "That is a long story. A painful story. My people were great once. We traveled the stars when your ancestors still looked up at them from caves. We built cities that touched the clouds. We kept peace between 1,000 worlds." The device projected new images. Dae-jung and Ji-won watched in awe as the hologram showed magnificent cities, ships that moved between stars, thousands of Velkari living in harmony. Then the images changed, showing fire and destruction, ships falling from the sky, cities burning. "What happened?" Dae-jung asked quietly. "War," Talvira said through the device. An enemy came from the dark spaces between galaxies. We call them Ravagers. They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They only consume and destroy. We fought them for 50 years. We lost. More images showed the terrible creatures. They looked like insects, but massive, with armor like black metal and weapons that tore ships apart. The hologram showed battle after battle, each one ending with the Velkari losing ground. Most of my people died in the war, Talvira continued. Those who survived scattered across the galaxy, hiding on primitive worlds where the Ravagers would not think to look. My group came here 5 years ago. We thought we were safe. We thought we could raise our children in peace. But, G1 prompted gently, but the Ravagers never stop hunting. They track survivors, finishing what they started. They found us 3 months ago. Killed half our group, including my mate. The rest of us scattered. Hayrin and I have been hiding in that cave. I thought she would be safe there during the storm. I was wrong. See? After Ming. It's spended from one. I was wrong. Hayrin made a small sound and pressed closer to her mother. Talvira gently nuzzled her daughter, making comforting sounds. There are more of you? Daejung asked. More Velkari on this planet? Yes. About 200. Mostly children. We have a hidden settlement deep in the wilderness. But I do not know if they are still alive. The Ravagers may have found them by now. Ji-won and Daejung looked at each other. The implications were staggering. They had found not just alien life, but an intelligent species with advanced technology, refugees from an ancient war, being hunted by a terrible enemy. We have to tell the others, Ji-won said. We have to help them. Sang-woo won't agree to that, Daejung said bitterly. He's already calling command. He wants Talvira removed from the station. As if summoned by his name, the station door opened. Sang-woo came out with 2 security officers. They carried tranquilizer guns. Step away from the creature, Sang-woo ordered. We're relocating it to a safe distance from the station. 1. Sang-woo. We locating it maybe 1. We locating it to a safe distance from the station. Her name is Talvira, Daejung said, standing up. She's not a creature. She's a person. And she's a refugee. I don't care what she is. She's dangerous, and she's not staying here. Talvira stood up, placing herself between the humans and her daughter. She didn't threaten or growl. She just stood there, protective and dignified. Through the translator, her words came. I understand your fear. I will leave. But please, I ask that you help my daughter recover. Before we go. She is still weak. You can both leave now, Sang-woo said coldly. No, Daejung said. He moved to stand beside Talvira. If they leave, I leave. I didn't save them just to watch you throw them back into the storm. Ji-won hesitated only a moment, then stood beside Daejung. He's right. This is first contact with an intelligent species. We can't just send them away. Think of what we could learn. Think of what they could teach us. End of it. With 21. Think of what we could teach us. Sang-woo glared at them both. You're both going to regret this. When that thing attacks someone, when people die, it will be on your heads. He turned and went back inside, slamming the door behind him. The security officers looked uncomfortable but followed him. Daejung looked at Talvira and Hayrin, both watching him with their glowing blue eyes. He might be sent back to Earth in disgrace, but looking at little Hayrin, alive and safe in her mother's arms, he knew he had made the right choice. Some things were more important than rules and protocols. Some things were worth fighting for. Come on, he said gently. Let's get you both somewhere warm and dry. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. Come on. Talvira bowed her head in gratitude. Through the translator, she said words that would stay with Daejung forever. You are the first in a long time to see us as more than beasts. You gave my daughter back her future. We will not forget this. The Velkari do not forget. The next 3 days were the strangest of Daejung's life. He and Ji-won set up a small shelter outside the research station for Talvira and Hae-rin. The mother and daughter stayed there, recovering from their ordeal. Daejung brought them food, water, and medical supplies. Each time, Sang-woo would watch from the windows, his face tight with disapproval. Daejung didn't care anymore. He had stopped trying to follow Sang-woo's orders. Some lines, once crossed, changed everything. Ji-won spent hours each day with the translation device, learning more about the Velkari language and history. At night, she would come to Daejung's room and share what she had learned, her eyes bright with excitement and wonder. You won't believe this, she said on the third night, spreading papers across his desk. The Velkari weren't just advanced. They were the most advanced civilization in this galaxy. 300 years ago, they built the network of stations that connected hundreds of worlds. They invented faster than light travel. They created the technology that we humans found and copied. Daejung stared at the papers. They showed diagrams and schematics, equations that would take human scientists decades to understand. We've been using their technology? All this time? Yes. That old station we found orbiting the dead star in the Kepler system? That was Velkari. The FTL drive patterns we reverse-engineered? Also, Velkari. Without them, we would still be trapped in our solar system, dreaming of the stars instead of reaching them. And we never knew, Daejung said softly. We thought we were so clever, figuring it out on our own. The Velkari left those stations as gifts, Ji-won continued. They believed that when young species were ready, they would find the stations and learn from them. It was their way of helping others reach the stars, the way someone once helped them. What happened to them? Talvira mentioned a war, but she didn't give details. Ji-won's expression darkened. The Ravagers. That's what the Velkari call them. An insectoid species from outside our galaxy. They showed up 3 centuries ago and started destroying everything. They don't communicate, don't negotiate, don't take prisoners. They just kill. Why? No one knows. Maybe they're following some biological imperative, like locusts consuming a field. Maybe they hate other forms of life. Maybe there's no reason at all. The Velkari fought them for 50 years and lost. Their civilization fell. Billions died. The survivors scattered across the galaxy, hiding wherever they could. Daejung felt sick. And they're still being hunted? Yes. The Ravagers track down survivor groups and eliminate them. It's methodical, efficient, and cruel. Talvira's group thought they were safe here on Vel 7, but 3 months ago, a Ravager scout ship found them. That's when her mate died. Yes. Along with half their group, the survivors scattered. Talvira and Hae-rin were hiding in that cave. The other Velkari are somewhere else on this planet, also hiding. Daejung stood up and walked to his window. Outside, he could see the small shelter where Talvira and Hae-rin slept. The mother was awake, as she often was at night, standing guard over her sleeping child. We have to help them, he said. I agree. But how? Sang-woo has already sent a report to Earth Command. They're reviewing our protocols and deciding what to do. At best, they'll order the Velkari relocated. At worst, they'll treat them like dangerous animals and have them destroyed. Ji-won nodded. Sang-woo keeps saying they're a threat. He's convinced the others. Only you, me, and maybe Taeho believe differently. Taeho was the station's pilot. A quiet man who had been watching everything from a distance. He hadn't said much, but Daejung had caught him bringing extra food to the shelter when he thought no one was looking. What about the other Velkari? Daejung asked. The ones in the hidden settlement. If there are 200 of them, surely that changes things. Earth can't ignore an entire population. Talvira won't tell me where they are. She's afraid if humans know the location, they'll be hunted down or captured for study. Can you blame her? After everything her people have been through? Dae-jung couldn't. But he also knew that time was running out. Earth Command would make a decision soon, and it probably wouldn't be the one he hoped for. The next morning brought news that changed everything. Tae-ho burst into the common room where Dae-jung and Ji-won were eating breakfast. His face was pale. "We have a problem. A big one." He pulled up a display on the main screen. It showed a radar image of something in orbit around Vel 7. Something massive. "That appeared 2 hours ago," Tae-ho said. "It's a ship." Sang-woo was already there, studying the image. "How big is it?" 3 kilometers long, heavily armed. "And it's scanning the surface of the planet." Dae-jung felt his blood run cold. "Is it Ravager?" "How would you know what a Ravager ship looks like?" Sang-woo snapped. "Because Talvira showed us," Ji-won said quietly. She pulled up an image from the translation device. It matched the ship on the screen, almost exactly. The room fell silent. Finally, Sang-woo spoke, his voice tight. "We need to evacuate. Now. Get everyone to the transport ship. We can't just leave," Dae-jung said. "Not our problem. Our responsibility is to the humans on this station. Those are people out there being hunted." "They're not human," Sang-woo said coldly. "Our orders are clear. In a crisis, human lives come first." Before Dae-jung could respond, the communication system crackled to life. A message came through, translated automatically by their systems. The voice was mechanical, emotionless. "Attention human settlement. This is a Ravager cleansing vessel. We are conducting pest control operations on this planet. You are advised to remain in your structures and not interfere. We have no quarrel with your species. Our business will be concluded within 3 solar rotations." The message repeated twice, then cut off. "Pest control," Ji-won whispered. "They're calling the Velkari pests." Sang-woo's face was unreadable. "You heard them. They're not interested in us. As long as we don't interfere, we're safe." "You can't be serious," Dae-jung said. "We have 47 humans on this station. No weapons worth mentioning. No military support for 6 months. That ship up there could wipe us out with a single shot. What exactly do you expect me to do?" "Something. Anything. We can't just stand by and watch." "Yes, we can. And we will. That's my final decision." Dae-jung looked around the room. Most of the staff looked relieved. A few looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. Only Ji-won and Tae-ho met his eyes with understanding. He turned and walked out of the room. Behind him, he heard Sang-woo yelling for him to come back, but he didn't stop. He went straight to the shelter, where Talvira waited. The Velkari mother knew something was wrong the moment she saw his face. "What has happened?" The translator device asked for her. "The Ravagers are here. In orbit. They're hunting your people." Talvira closed her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them, they were filled with sorrow, but not surprise. "So they found us. We knew this day might come. We hoped we had more time. Where are the others? The rest of your people?" "I cannot tell you. If I do, your people might give away the location to save themselves." "We wouldn't do that. Wouldn't you? Your leader has already decided not to help. Why should I trust any of you?" "Why?" Dae-jung had no answer for that. She was right. Sang-woo had made it clear that human safety came first. "What will you do?" "I will take Haerin and try to reach the others, warn them. Maybe together we can find a new hiding place, though I do not know where. The Ravagers are thorough. They will search every cave, every forest, every mountain. Let me help you." Talvira studied him with those glowing blue eyes. "Why? Why do you care so much about us? We are not your people. We are not even your species. You owe us nothing." Dae-jung thought about that question. He thought about his mother back on Earth, who had always taught him to help those in need. He thought about why he had become a scientist, why he had traveled to the stars. It wasn't to hide in safe stations and follow orders. It was to meet new life, to learn, to connect. Because it's wrong, he said simply. What's happening to your people is wrong, and maybe I can't stop it. Maybe I'm just one person, and this is too big for me, but I have to try. Because if I don't, if I just stand by and let it happen, then what kind of person am I? Talvira made a sound that the translator didn't convert to words, but Daejung understood it anyway. It was the sound of someone who had lost faith in other species, finding a small spark of hope again. There is something you should know, Talvira said finally. About humans. About why I decided to trust you with my daughter's life. What? The translation device contains more than just language data. It contains our history, our observations of other species. When I activated it, and it scanned you, it compared human genetic and behavioral patterns to our databases. Do you know what it found? No. Humans are young, so young compared to the ancient races. But you have something rare. Something that most species lose as they grow advanced. You still have the instinct to protect others, even at cost to yourselves. Most species evolve past that. They become logical, practical, self-preserving, but humans hold on to compassion like a child holds a precious toy. She gestured with her massive head toward the station. Your leader is afraid. That is logical. That is survival instinct. But you ran into flooding water to save a stranger. That is not logical. That is something else. Something powerful. The others call it weakness, Daejung said. They say I'm too soft for space exploration. Perhaps they are right that it makes you vulnerable. But it also makes you dangerous in ways they do not understand. Because someone who will risk everything for strangers might also inspire strangers to risk everything for them. Before Daejung could respond, Ji-won and Tae-ho came running toward them. The Ravagers have launched scout ships, Ji-won gasped. 6 of them. They're heading toward the northern wilderness. That's where the settlement is, Talvira said, her voice urgent. They found them already. We are out of time. Tae-ho looked at Daejung. I fueled up the transport. It can carry maybe 20 people, if we pack them in. I can fly it. Sang-woo will never approve that, Ji-won said. Then we don't ask permission, Daejung said. He looked at Talvira. Can you guide us to your people? Can we evacuate at least some of them? You would do this? Risk your lives? Your careers? Everything? Daejung looked at his 2 friends, seeing the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. Yes. Then I will guide you. But you must understand. The Ravagers will try to stop us. They do not tolerate interference. If we do this, they may decide humans are also targets. Let them try, Tae-ho said quietly. I'm tired of running from bullies. Ji-won nodded. If we're going to do this, we need to move now. Before Sang-woo figures out what we're planning, Talvira looked at each of them in turn. Then she bowed her head deeply. A gesture of profound respect. The Velkari will remember this. We will remember that when our people faced extinction, 3 humans said no. 3 humans chose to fight. 4, Haerin said softly from inside the shelter. She had been awake, listening. I will fight too. No, Talvira said firmly. You will stay safe. I will fight. Haerin repeated. Through the translator, her young voice was filled with determination. For Papa. For the others. I will not hide anymore. Talvira looked at her daughter for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. Then we go. All of us. Together. The 4 humans and 2 Velkari moved toward the transport hangar. Behind them, the research station's lights glowed in the darkness. Above them, the Ravager ship hung in orbit like a sword waiting to fall. Daejung didn't know if they would succeed. He didn't know if they would even survive. But he knew that this moment, this choice, would define everything that came after. Sometimes the most important battles aren't the ones you can win. They're the ones you can't walk away from. The transport ship wasn't designed for combat or heroics. It was a simple cargo hauler meant for moving supplies between the station and surface sites. But Taeho had made some modifications over the past months, adding extra fuel capacity and reinforcing the hull for rough weather flying. Now, those preparations might save lives. They loaded quickly and quietly. Daejung grabbed medical supplies, while Ji-won packed food and water. Talvira carried Haerin gently in her mouth, placing the young Valkyrie in the cargo area where she could ride safely. The mother then curled herself into the remaining space, her massive body taking up most of the ship's interior. "This is going to be tight," Taeho said from the pilot seat. "I've never flown with this much weight before." "Can you do it?" Daejung asked. "I can try." "That's all any of us can do, right?" They were sealing the cargo door when Sang-woo's voice came over the station intercom. "Attention all personnel. Transport 1 is not authorized for departure. Taeho, if you're in that ship, stand down immediately." Taeho looked back at the others. "Last chance to change your minds. Once we take off, we're all in serious trouble." "We're already in trouble," Ji-won said. "Might as well make it count." Taeho smiled and fired up the engines. The transport lifted off the pad with a groan of protest. Through the windows, they could see Sang-woo running out of the station, yelling and waving his arms. But it was too late. The ship was airborne. "Talvera, I need directions," Taeho called back. "Where's your settlement?" The Valkyrie mother moved to the cockpit window, careful not to jostle her daughter. She studied the landscape below, then made a series of sounds. The translation device converted them. "North. Follow the river until it splits. Take the western branch into the mountains. There's a valley hidden between two peaks. That's where my people are." "How long to get there?" 20 minutes by air. But the Ravager scouts are already ahead of us." Taeho pushed the engines harder. The transport wasn't built for speed, but he coaxed every bit of performance he could from it. Below them, the alien landscape rushed past, red earth, purple forests, and the winding silver line of the river. "I'm picking up signals ahead," Ji-won said, monitoring the sensors. "Multiple craft. They match the profile of the Ravager scouts." "How many?" 6. "No. Wait. 7. They're circling something. Must be the settlement." Daejung felt his stomach tighten. "Are they attacking yet?" "Not yet. Looks like they're scanning, searching for targets." "The Valkyrie must be hiding." Talvira made an anguished sound. "My people have tunnels, places to hide underground. But the Ravagers have scanners that can penetrate deep into the earth. It's only a matter of time before they find everyone." "Then we need to buy them time," Daejung said. "Draw the Ravagers away. Somehow." "With what?" Taeho asked. "We don't have weapons. This is a cargo ship." Daejung thought frantically. Then an idea came to him, crazy and desperate. "We have the translation device. Can we use it to send a signal?" Ji-won understood immediately. "You want to broadcast to the Ravagers? Tell them to stop?" "No. I want to distract them. Make them think the Valkyrie are somewhere else." "That might work," Ji-won said, pulling out the device. "But if we broadcast, they'll trace the signal back to us. They'll know humans are interfering." "I know. But if it saves lives, it's worth it." Talvira turned her glowing eyes on Daejung. "You understand what you're doing? Once the Ravagers mark you as enemies, they will not forget. Your entire species could become targets. Right now, I'm less worried about my species and more worried about yours." Ji-won worked quickly on the translation device, configuring it to broadcast on multiple frequencies. "What should I say?" 8. 1. Tell them. Daejung paused, thinking. "Tell them the Valkyrie settlement has been evacuated. Tell them their targets escaped to the south. Make them chase ghosts instead of children. Ji-won's fingers flew across the device's interface. After a moment, she nodded. Message, ready. Broadcasting, now. The device hummed and pulsed with light. On the sensors, they could see the Ravager scouts react immediately. The insectoid ships broke formation, their patterns changing from search mode to pursuit mode. It's working, Taeho said. 3 of them are heading south, but 4 are still circling the settlement. They're not convinced, Talavera said. Ravagers are not easily fooled. They know the Velkari must be close. Then we need a better distraction, Daejung said. Taeho, can you get their attention? You want me to buzz a ship full of aliens whose entire purpose is killing things? Yes, Taeho laughed, but there was no humor in it. Well, I always wondered what I'd do in a real crisis. Guess I'm about to find out. He banked the transport hard, diving toward the valley where the Velkari settlement lay hidden. Below, Daejung could see the entrance to underground tunnels cleverly concealed among the rocks. He could also see the Ravager scouts, sleek black ships with weapons pods bristling from their hulls, hovering like predatory insects. Taeho brought the transport in low and fast, passing directly in front of one of the scouts. The Ravager ship immediately spun to track them. More signals flashed across the sensors as the other scouts took notice. They've seen us, G1 reported. All 7 are converging on our position. Perfect, Daejung said, though his heart was pounding. Now get us out of here. Working on it, Taeho said through gritted teeth. He sent the transport into a steep climb, engines screaming in protest. Behind them, the Ravager scouts gave chase. Daejung had never been in a chase before. It was nothing like the calm, orderly simulations he'd trained in. The transport shook and rattled as Taeho threw it into one maneuver after another. The world outside the windows became a blur of sky and ground spinning wildly. They're targeting us, Ji-won said, her voice tight. Weapons lock detected. Can they actually hit us? Daejung asked. We're about to find out. A beam of energy lanced past the transport, so close that Daejung could see it through the window. A searing line of green light that left afterimages in his vision. The near miss sent a wave of heat through the hull. Okay, that was too close, Taeho said. Everyone hold on. This is going to get rough. He dove the transport into a canyon, flying between rock walls with barely meters of clearance on either side. The Ravager scouts followed, but they were larger, less maneuverable. 2 of them had to pull up to avoid collision. The other 5 stayed on their tail. It's working, Talvera said. You're drawing them away from the settlement. My people will have time to evacuate deeper into the tunnels. Great, Taeho muttered. Now, we just have to survive long enough for that to matter. Another energy beam struck the transport's rear shield, causing alarms to blare throughout the ship. The smell of burning electronics filled the air. Shields down to 60%, G1 reported. 2 more hits like that, and we're done. In the cargo area, Haereen made a frightened sound. Her mother moved to comfort her, but Talvera's body was rigid with tension. She wasn't used to being helpless, unable to fight or protect. Daejung moved to sit beside the young Velkari. It's okay, he said softly, though he wasn't sure if it was true. Taeho is a good pilot. He'll get us through this. Taeho, 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 Taeho is a good pilot. Haereen looked at him with those glowing blue eyes. Through the translator, her small voice said, You're scared too. I can smell it. Yes, I'm very scared. Then why did you come? Why help us? It was a good question. Daejung thought about it as the transport shook from another near miss. Because, he said finally, being scared and being brave aren't opposites. Being brave means doing the right thing, even when you're scared. My papa used to say something like that. Before the Ravagers killed him, Daejung felt a lump in his throat. He put his hand gently on Haereen's small shoulder. She leaned into the touch, seeking comfort in the simple gesture. In the cockpit, Taeho was performing miracles. He sent the transport skimming across a lake, the landing struts nearly touching the water. The spray created a temporary cloud that confused the Ravager's sensors, buying precious seconds. He threaded through a forest of massive trees, using their trunks as obstacles that the larger scout ships struggled to navigate. But the Ravagers were relentless. They adapted to each trick, learned from each maneuver. Slowly, inevitably, they were gaining ground. "We can't keep this up," Taeho said. "Fuel's getting low. Shields are almost gone. And they're getting smarter." "How long have we been running?" Daejung asked. 15 minutes. "Is that enough time for the Valkyrie to get to safety?" Talvira made a thoughtful sound. "Perhaps, if they moved quickly. But I cannot be certain." Daejung made a decision. "Then we give them more time. Taeho, head back toward the research station." "What? Why?" "Because Sangwoo was right about one thing. We have no weapons. But the station does. Mining lasers, industrial equipment, things we can use. And maybe if we bring this fight to our home ground, we'll have an advantage. Or we could lead 7 angry alien warships right to our fellow humans," Ji-won pointed out. "Would Sangwoo help us?" Daejung asked. "No. But some of the others might. And even if they don't, there's equipment we can use." No. Taeho nodded. "It's a plan. Not a good plan. But better than flying in circles until we run out of fuel." He banked the transport, heading back the way they'd come. The research station appeared in the distance, its lights glowing against the darkening sky. Daejung could see people outside, watching their approach. Sangwoo was probably among them, furious at what they'd done. But as the transport got closer, something unexpected happened. The station's external mining laser powered up, its targeting array tracking the Ravager scouts behind them. "Is that?" Ji-won started. "Someone's helping us," Taeho said, disbelief in his voice. The mining laser fired. Not at the transport, but past it. The beam caught one of the Ravager scouts, punching through its hull. The enemy ship spiraled down, trailing smoke, and crashed into the forest below. More equipment came online. Industrial plasma cutters, cargo loading systems, even the station's maintenance drones. Everything that could possibly be weaponized was being turned against the Ravagers. "Land the ship," a voice came over the comm. It was Sangwoo, but he sounded different. Less angry, more determined. "Bring it down on pad 2. We'll cover you." Taeho didn't waste time asking questions. He brought the transport in fast, landing hard enough to make the whole ship groan. As soon as they touched down, station personnel rushed to help them out. Sangwoo was there, his face grim. "I thought about what you said," he told Daejung. "About standing by and watching. I realized you were right. It would have been safer to do nothing. It would have been smarter. But it wouldn't have been right." "You're helping us?" "We're helping them," Sangwoo corrected, gesturing to Talvira and Haerin. "All of us. Every human on this station voted. It was unanimous. We don't abandon people who need help, even if those people aren't human." Daejung felt tears prick his eyes. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. We've taken down 1 scout, but there are 6 more up there. And now, we've made ourselves targets. The big ship in orbit is going to notice what we did." As if summoned by his words, the sensors screamed a warning. The massive Ravager cleansing vessel was descending from orbit, coming to investigate the loss of one of its scouts. "What do we do now?" Ji-won asked. Everyone looked at each other. 47 humans and 2 Valkyrie against a warship 3 kilometers long. The odds were impossible. But Daejung remembered what Talvira had said about humans. That they held on to compassion like a child holds a precious toy. And that made them dangerous in ways others didn't understand. "We fight," he said simply. "Not because we can win, but because it's right. Because those Velkari children hiding in tunnels deserve to grow up. Because Hayreen deserves to have a future. Because sometimes the most important thing isn't surviving. It's standing up. Talvira bowed deeply. Through the translator, her voice was thick with emotion. The Velkari have wandered alone for 300 years. We thought we would die that way. But today, we stand with humans. Today, we are not alone. Today, we're all in this together, Sangwoo said. He looked at his staff, at the collection of scientists and researchers who had never signed up for combat. Let's show these ravagers what humans do when you threaten our friends. The massive warship descended toward them like a falling moon, blotting out the sky. But on the ground, surrounded by jury-rigged weapons and impossible odds, a group of humans and Velkari stood together, ready to fight for something bigger than themselves. The battle for Vel 7 was about to begin. The Ravager warship was larger than any human structure Daejung had ever seen. As it descended through the atmosphere, its shadow swallowed the research station, turning day into twilight. Its hull was covered in black armor that seemed to drink in light, and weapon ports bristled from every surface like the spines of some massive sea urchin. Everyone to positions, Sangwoo called out over the station intercom. His voice was steady, showing no fear. Remember, we're not trying to destroy it. We just need to slow it down, make it think twice about attacking. The humans spread out across the station, each taking control of whatever equipment they could weaponize. The mining lasers, the plasma cutters, even the cargo lifters had been modified to throw chunks of rock at high velocity. It was pathetic compared to the firepower of the ship above them, but it was all they had. Daejung found himself at one of the mining laser controls alongside G1. Neither of them had combat training. They were scientists, researchers, people who studied life rather than taking it. But today, they would do what they had to do. Talvira stood nearby with Hayreen. The young Velkari was scared but trying to be brave, just like the humans around her. Her mother's massive form was tense, ready to fight with claws and teeth if necessary. This is foolish, Talvira said through the translator. You cannot win against a cleansing vessel. Your weapons are too weak. Your numbers too few. Probably, Daejung agreed. But we're doing it anyway. Why? Why sacrifice yourselves for strangers? Daejung thought about that question. He thought about his mother back on Earth, who had taught him that the size of a person's heart mattered more than the size of their muscles. He thought about his father, who had told him that doing the right thing was often hard. But that's what made it matter. Because someone has to, he said finally. Because if everyone just looks out for themselves, if everyone just does what's safe and smart, then what kind of galaxy do we live in? A cold one. A lonely one. We'd rather die, trying to make it better, than live knowing we didn't. Talvira studied him for a long moment. You humans are very strange, and perhaps that is a good thing. The warship stopped its descent, hovering a kilometer above the station. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a message came through, translated by the station's computers. The voice was cold and mechanical. Human settlement. You have interfered with Ravager operations. You have destroyed Ravager property. Explain your actions. Everyone. I'm seeing one. I'm seeing one. Everyone one. Everyone one. I'm seeing one. Seeing one. Everyone one. Sangwoo took the communication. This is Research Station Alpha. We are protecting refugees on this planet. Sentient beings who have asked for our help. Leave them alone and we'll have no further conflict. Negative. The Velkari are designated for elimination. This is not negotiable. Stand aside. We can't do that. There was a pause. When the Ravager voice returned, it sounded almost curious. Your species is new to this region of space. You are weak. Primitive. You have no stake in this conflict. You are weak. You are weaks. Why do you choose to die for creatures not of your kind? Sang-woo looked around at his staff, at Dae-jung and Ji-won and Tae-ho, at all the humans who had voted to stand and fight. Because it's the right thing to do. I know your species doesn't understand that. Understood. You have chosen to become enemies of the Ravager Collective. This designation is permanent. You will be eliminated, along with the Valkyrie. Then come and try, Sang-woo said, and cut the connection. The attack came immediately. Energy weapons lanced down from the warship, striking the station's shields. Alarms wailed as the defensive systems struggled to handle the onslaught. The humans fired back with everything they had: mining lasers, plasma cutters, improvised missiles made from fuel tanks. It was like throwing pebbles at a tank, but they kept firing anyway. We're not doing any damage, Ji-won shouted over the noise. Their armor is too thick. Keep shooting, Dae-jung yelled back. Make them work for it. Tae-ho was at the transport controls, using the ship's maneuvering thrusters to dodge the remaining Ravager scouts that swarmed around the station like angry hornets. He took out another scout by ramming it with a cargo container launched from the loading system. 2 down, 5 to go, plus the massive warship that was systematically destroying their defenses. The station shook as a direct hit collapsed one of the outer buildings. Fires broke out. People were hurt. But no one ran. No one gave up. They stood their ground and fought with everything they had. Talvera watched it all with her glowing eyes wide. I have never seen anything like this, she said through the translator. Any other species would have surrendered by now. Would have chosen survival over principle. We're stubborn like that, Dae-jung said, firing another mining laser shot that splashed harmlessly against the warship's shields. It's more than stubborn, it's... Talvera struggled to find the word. Inspiring. She made a decision then. She activated the translation device and broadcast on all frequencies, sending a message not just to the Ravagers, but to the hidden Valkyrie settlement. My people, if you can hear this, listen. The humans are fighting for us, dying for us. They barely know us, and yet they stand against the Ravagers to protect our children. We cannot hide while others sacrifice themselves for us. Not anymore. What are you doing? Dae-jung asked. Calling my people to battle. We have hidden for 300 years. We have run and cowered and watched our civilization crumble. But today, I will run no more. If humans can be brave enough to fight for strangers, then the Valkyrie can be brave enough to fight for ourselves. From the mountains, from the tunnels, from the hidden places where they had been sheltering, the Valkyrie came. They emerged like shadows, dozens of them, then hundreds. Some were massive like Talvera, built for strength and combat. Others were smaller, more nimble. All of them converged on the research station, ready to stand with the humans who had chosen to stand with them. The Ravagers noticed immediately. The warship shifted its targeting, trying to engage the new threats. But the Valkyrie were fast and knew the terrain. They split into groups, attacking from multiple angles. Some climbed the cliffs to reach higher positions. Others used their natural camouflage to blend with the landscape, striking and disappearing before the Ravagers could respond. They're helping us, Ji-won said, tears streaming down her face. They're actually helping us. Of course we are, Talvera said. You showed us something we had forgotten. That sometimes the fight itself matters more than the victory. That standing up is more important than staying alive. The battle raged for hours. The humans and Valkyrie fought side by side, combining human ingenuity with Valkyrie strength and speed. Slowly, impossibly, they began to push back. Another Ravager scout went down. Then another. The warship's shields started to flicker under the sustained assault, but the cost was high. More buildings collapsed. More humans were injured. 2 Valkyrie fell to enemy fire and didn't get back up. Talvera roared in anguish at each loss, but she didn't stop fighting. Dae-jung saw Sang-woo take a hit from a Ravager weapon. His supervisor went down hard, his arm badly burned. Dae-jung ran to him, pulling him to cover, while Ji-won provided suppressing fire. "This is insane," Sang-woo gasped, his face twisted in pain. "We're actually doing it. We're actually hurting them." "You were right," Dae-jung said, applying emergency medical treatment. "We couldn't stand by and watch. Not and remain human. I wasn't right. You were. You saw it before I did." The Ravager warship was retreating now, rising back toward orbit. Its shields were down to critical levels, its weapon systems damaged. The remaining scouts broke off their attack runs, fleeing to rejoin their mother ship. A final message came through. Species designation: human. Threat level: reevaluating. This encounter will be reported. Future engagements will be different. Then they were gone, vanishing into the dark sky above. For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. They just stood there, humans and Valkyrie together, staring at the sky where their enemy had been. Then, someone started to cheer. Others joined in. Soon the air was filled with shouts of joy and relief and disbelief. They had done it. They had actually done it. Dae-jung sank to the ground, exhausted beyond words. Ji-won collapsed beside him, laughing and crying at the same time. Taeho stumbled out of the transport, covered in sweat and grinning like a maniac. All around them, humans and Valkyrie embraced, celebrating their impossible victory. Talvira approached with Hayrin at her side. The young Valkyrie had fought too, using her small size to reach places adults couldn't. Relaying messages between groups, she looked tired but proud. "We won," Hayrin said through the translator. "We actually won." "Yes," Dae-jung said, pulling the young alien into a gentle hug. "We won." Talvira bowed low, a gesture of profound respect. "The debt we owe cannot be measured. You risked everything. Your lives, your safety, your species' future. For people you barely knew. Why?" Dae-jung looked around at the damaged station, at the injured humans receiving care from both their own people and the Valkyrie medics. He thought about everything they had lost and everything they had gained. "Because," he said finally, "you were drowning. And I saw you trying to protect your child. And I couldn't walk away from that. None of us could. It's just who we are." "The galaxy thought compassion was weakness," Talvera said. "For 300 years, we survived by being hard, by trusting no one, by thinking only of ourselves. We became something we never wanted to be. But you humans, you showed us that compassion isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing there is." The celebration continued through the night. As dawn broke over Vel 7, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, Dae-jung stood on a cliff overlooking the valley. The research station was damaged but still standing. The Valkyrie settlement was secure. And somewhere far above, the Ravager warship was fleeing, carrying news of their encounter to its masters. Talvira joined him, her massive form settling beside his small human one. "What happens now?" she asked. Now we rebuild. We help your people settle properly. We send a message to Earth about our new allies. We prepare for the day the Ravagers come back, because they will come back. You're not afraid? I'm terrified. But we'll face it together. Humans and Valkyrie." "Friends," Talvira repeated. She made a sound like a purr, a sound of contentment. "My people have not had friends in a long time." Little Hayrin came running up, full of energy despite everything they'd been through. She had been playing with some of the human children, laughing and chasing each other through the ruins. Different species, different worlds, but children were children everywhere. "Dae-jung," she said, using his name without the translator now. She was learning human speech quickly. "Thank you. For saving me. For saving all of us." Dae-jung knelt down to her level. "You don't need to thank me. I just did what anyone should do." "No," Hayrin said seriously. "Not anyone would. But you did. You and your people. You saw us drowning, and you dove in to help, even though it was dangerous, even though you could have died. She hugged him then, her small alien arms wrapping around his neck. Dae-jung hugged her back, feeling the weight of everything they'd been through and everything that was still to come. Behind them, the sun continued to rise. On Earth, 7 light-years away, humanity would soon learn about what had happened on Vel 7. They would learn about the Velkari, about the ancient civilization that had helped humanity reach the stars. They would learn about the Ravagers and the threat they posed. But most importantly, they would learn about the day a small group of humans chose compassion over safety, courage over comfort. That day would become legend. It would be told and retold, changing and growing with each telling. Some would call it foolish. Others would call it heroic. But everyone would agree on one thing. It was very, very human. Because that's what humans do. They see someone drowning, someone suffering, someone in need, and they help. Not because it's smart, or safe, or profitable, but because it's right. Because they would want someone to do the same for them. Because in the vast darkness of space, kindness is the brightest light. Dae-jung stood with his friends, human and alien alike, and watched the dawn. They had won a battle. The war was far from over. But they had learned something important. They had learned that they didn't have to face the darkness alone. That together, different species with different strengths could stand against terrible odds. They had learned that compassion wasn't weakness. It was humanity's greatest weapon. And the galaxy would never be the same. Sang-woo, his arm bandaged but his spirit unbroken, came to stand with them. Earth Command is going to lose their minds when they hear about this, he said. Probably. Dae-jung agreed. We might all get court-martialed. Probably. Was it worth it? Dae-jung looked at Haerin, at Talvira, at the hundreds of Velkari who were now safe because of what they'd done. Yes. Without question. Sang-woo nodded. Then I guess we're all in agreement. He raised his uninjured arm in a gesture of unity. To new friends and old principles. To doing the right thing even when it's hard. To being human. To being human, everyone echoed. Human voices mixing with Velkari ones, creating a chorus that spoke of hope and friendship and the promise of a better future. In orbit above them, the stars shone down. Somewhere among those stars, the Ravagers were planning their next move. But somewhere else, on 1,000 worlds, other species would soon hear the story. The story of the humans who saved the drowning, who protected the helpless, who stood against impossible odds because it was right. The story of the day humanity announced itself to the galaxy not with weapons or conquest, but with compassion. And that story, that simple act of kindness in the face of cruelty, would echo across the stars for generations to come. It would inspire others to be brave, to be kind, to stand up when everything told them to hide. Because that's what humans do. And maybe, just maybe, that's what made them dangerous in the best possible way.